We're doing a new kind of video series thing.
Oh, fantastic.
Essentially, anybody wants my advice, I always say yes, but they just got to agree to be on camera.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think you'll enjoy this episode. I sat down with Guy, the founder of Educode, and as you'll see from the beginning, it was really tough to kind of figure out how I could be helpful. So as an entrepreneur, you really want to make sure that you're clear on the specific thing you need help with when you sit down with an advisor, mentor, or anybody really that you got questions for. We talked about fundraising and kind of the three phases of that, specifically around pre-marketing, and then we finished off about some strategic decisions that he's got to make about how he grows his company over 2018, because he's got some big, ambitious growth ideas. So I'm sure you're going to find this really fun.
Hey.
What's up, Guy? How's it going, man?
How are you?
This is your spot. I ran into Dale downstairs.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Did you say sorry for running into Dale?
I don't know.
That's funny.
I was seeing.
So what are we doing today?
I don't know, anything you want.
I'm here for you, man.
Okay.
Congrats on the press release, by the way.
The press release.
Yeah, the press release went out Friday
Really?
about you.
I
That
didn't
means
e-
your team's doing their job.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. That was good about Haitian immigrant starts education company. That was really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I guess, I always like to ask people what would be a 10 out of 10 at the end of our conversation? Like, what would you hope to get out of our talk?
You know, doing business, being an entrepreneur, it's kind of a funny word, but all the implications, really to do something and then you with success, it's so hard. I don't know, maybe we could spend some time talking about that.
Just about the struggles?
The struggles and yeah. You know, there's two main things I need. I think entrepreneurs really are struggling.
What do you need?
What I need?
Not every, it's easy for us to think about, I think other entrepreneurs probably are going through this too, but what do you need? What does Guy need? You've got a business, you're trying to grow it, you've been at this. You know what I mean? Like, if you could just wave a magic wand and have the problem solved, what are those problems that are showing up right now?
My company need external funding, but it's not. This is funny because money is not really the problem.
Yeah.
I feel that there's one motivator. He said what entrepreneurs really need is resourcefulness. I think it's Tony Robbins who said that.
Totally.
And I believe in that because when I started this initiative with 17 employees, with all that money I had to spend, my challenge is going as fast as I can to deliver the product. There's a lot of how do you call that? I'm francophone, as you know. I'm trying to find words.
You can say in French.
Angel investors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why should an angel investor give you money?
Not giving me money.
Invest. Why should he?
Because it's for the future of our kids. 2018 will make at least $5 million. Okay, in 2 years of operation, and 2020. Only 25% of kids in Canada will have 30 million. And I don't talk about US, Europe.
Do you know what angel investors look for?
Maybe I don't know.
You don't?
Because I invested all my company.
Yeah,
that's why I said
bootstrap.
resources, resourcefulness. I don't go out there, I have an idea, please give me money. I never did that.
Yeah.
And I don't plan to do that if I can keep going and make my business fund itself.
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying if it will take me 3 years to get all my content ready to go to US and Europe with an investor, spending 1 year and have everything ready and make more money very, very quickly, that would be fine. But if no one is interested, so
what's your
I'm
challenge?
good.
You haven't. I'm sitting here waiting for what's the challenge? You say that that's your challenge, but I'm not. What's the question? How can I help?
Okay, based on what I said, how can you help me? Maybe you don't understand fully, I know, but
Well, it's not about that. It's just like asking me. Honestly, as an entrepreneur, it's lazy for me to ask somebody else how they could help me. It's like saying, "Hey, let me know if you ever need anything." It's a lazy thing to do.
Yeah.
That I never do. I never say to somebody like, "Hey, let me know if I can ever be helpful," because it's lazy. You're better off saying, "Here's the things I know about you. Can you help me with this specific thing?" If you email your investors or your advisors or whoever and say, "Hey, I need help," and they go, "With what?" and you say, "I don't know. What do you think you can help with?" What do you think the response is going to be?
You're right.
So we don't want to do that. I think, is it fundraising? What is the challenge? Going back to the first question I asked you, what is the problem? Like, whatever your challenge, I've built companies, I've invested in tons, so I can go wherever you need me to go, but I don't want to leave here and then know that I didn't answer your question.
Listen, I need more team
Yeah.
to complete all my content to deliver.
Yeah.
I have 17 people. I'm spending 51K.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like spending more than that.
Okay, so you want to raise money.
I want to raise money.
Yeah.
To go faster.
Perfect. Do you want to talk about fundraising?
Why not?
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know, because in the same breath, and this is a concern, you say, well, I need to raise money, but you're like, I don't know if I want to. Let's make that decision. We can talk about should I or shouldn't I. Do you want to talk about that?
Okay, let's do it.
On should I or shouldn't I, or raising money?
Let's talk about raising money.
Here's the thing is investors want to see a return. As much as there's the why, there's the passion, there's the energy around the business, an investor needs to see that this is going to be a path to a return. Yeah. The whole right? It's an angel investor. It's not an angel. It's not an angel giver, right? It's not a nonprofit. But I think a lot of people think that. I think that entrepreneurs are like, why don't people see my vision? It's like, well, you haven't communicated the economic language. And it's not wrong. It doesn't mean that they're assholes or like they're trying to take advantage of you or they don't care about the bigger mission. It's just they're looking at 15 deals. Like the way I think about it is if you talk to an investor today, assume he's having 14 other conversations and somehow you need to stand out in that conversation. Okay. Does that make sense? So step one is how are they going to get their money out? That's the biggest fear every investor ever makes is if I give you money that I'll never get my money out. Not even not make a return, okay? Get it out of the business. I know a lot of people that think, well, I'm going to generate a return. It's like, it might be on paper. I know people that are in deals that on paper look good. They can't get any liquidity from that deal. So first off, it's got to be, you've got to present the timeline horizon. Like it's got to be a $100 million a year business in 7 years. That is the beginning. When you're competing against everybody else out there, when you've got sites like AngelList that allows any investor anywhere in the world that's an accredited investor to invest in some of the best technology companies in the world, this exists today, that didn't exist 5 years ago, you're competing against that. So what are you going to say? What's the narrative that gets your business to 100 million in 5 years or 7 years? Do you have one?
I do have one.
Okay.
In terms of scaling up.
No, it's a logical story of here's where we're at, here's why in 7 years we're going to be a $100 million a year business. And logically deconstruct this happens, this happens, this happens, and we succeed. Okay. And you may not have it, and that's okay.
Maybe I need to work on it really,
100%.
Writing it.
Yeah, write it down. It should be a visual. It should be in your pitch deck. Do you have a pitch deck?
We have a presentation, but I wouldn't call it that way.
Okay, so I would definitely work on a pitch. Yeah, you need a pitch deck. It's not a government fundraising deck. It's not a bank loan deck. They're very structured, right? It's all about like you got to assume. This is another thing that people make the mistake is they don't realize that most investors don't know the market, right? I invested in a golf company, but before I invested, I didn't realize that it was a multi-billion-dollar market. You know what I mean? So it kind of helps me understand, like you'll have investors that don't understand how big the education market is, right? Yeah. So if nowhere is in your presentation, you say, oh, by the way, it's how big is the market? Do you know how big the education market is?
I forget, it's multi-billion-dollar.
Anything that's core to the world, food, shelter, education is multi-billion, but what's the number? You know
I don't remember the number, but the number is really real. I don't remember. The only thing that I know based on research, they said every corner of our society was being revolutionized. Yeah. The only one left is education, and we're starting to crack to crack down, and this is the next real big market. Maybe I'll actualize this research and give you the real number.
If you think about investing, it's definitely, it's like everything else in business, it's a funnel, right? You have people you talk to at the top, you got people in the middle that are kind of interested, and then at the end you have the people that are going to give you a check, right? And so step one, I call this the pre-marketing phase of pre-marketing as like pre-marketing of the investment opportunity. You have to talk to a number of investors. Not, and this is the funny part, not to raise money. Okay? So in raising money, like fruit, goes bad over time. If you come to see me today and say, I'm raising money, and I say, cool, keep me posted as you make progress, because you haven't even generated revenue really yet, right? If in 2 years you come back and say, hey, I'm still raising money, what does that tell me?
There's a problem. Maybe.
There's something wrong. Somebody else said no. The rest of the market, you either didn't accomplish what you did. So there's a negative signal. It's like, again, it's like fruit, right? It goes bad over time. So knowing that, there's a timeline to fundraising. Okay? So there's literally from the first conversation you have with an investor to when you pull the trigger and say, I'm now raising, there's a timeline. Some people think it's 12 months, some people think it's 9. I think it's more like 6, maybe even more like 4. 4 meaning that you start and you finish and you have money in the bank within 4 months. You do not want to be out there for a year and a half fundraising. Yet that happens quite a bit, right?
Okay. But how do you start the process?
So step one.
It's a new world for me. I don't really know nothing about that.
Perfect. Well, I've done it twice myself, and I've helped 100 other entrepreneurs do it. So like to me, it's kind of like, it's like anything else. Sales, marketing, everything's a funnel. One is you got to make the list, right? So who are the investors so to me the list is researching online and saying who are companies like me, who are companies in the education space, and then go find in the early days who supported them, right? It's a strategy. It's instead of going, like most people make the mistake of just saying, well, I heard Dan's an investor. I've never invested in an education company. Well, that's not true. I invested in Udemy. So that I would say that was my education bet, right? Okay. So that would be a good one. So you go to Udemy, you go to Treehouse, you go to all these new platforms, these like university massive multiplayer, whatever they're called, the MOGs or Moogs. The Moogs. Who invested in those companies? That builds your hit list of potential investors. Okay. And now here's the other filter about potential investors. They've written a check in the last 12 months. I don't know if you've ever talked to a customer that kind of acts like they're interested and then they just drag you along because it's their job to act interested. Investors will do the exact same thing. So wherever they're at in their investment process, you need to ask, like, you got to figure out, have they written a check in the last 12 months? Okay. Because if they haven't, then you could be wasting your time, right? Yep. So that's the first part, is making this list. Once you have the list, then it's reaching out to them. Okay. So reaching out to them is a 20-minute conversation about what you're doing, how you're doing it, what's unique about it. Are you raising money? No. As soon as you say yes, the timer starts. That's how it works. As soon as you say yes, timer starts. Okay. Right? Yep. As soon as I say, are you raising money, you say yes, the timer starts. If it's 8 months from now and I say, hey, have you closed your round, and you say no, that's a bad sign, right? Yeah. That is probably the most important thing. And there's this great saying, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money. It's asking for advice, right? If you go in there asking for money, you're going to get advice on how to raise money. If you go in there asking for advice, the person will convince themselves into doing the deal. Okay. Right? Because now it's not your idea, it's my idea. See how that works? Yep. So I always tell people to use big challenges going on in the business to seek advice. That doesn't make you look like dumb, right? You don't want to reach out to somebody and be like, oh, I don't know how to hire somebody. It's like, well, you're going to have bigger issues than that when you build the business. That's just pre-marketing. That's like you do make the list, qualify the investors. I mean, this is no different than sales, right? Then you reach out asking for advice. And they all know it. I know it. Investors know it. Every investor knows. Like, hey, I'd love to pick your brain about and your advice could be like, we're not sure if we should raise money or not, right? Yeah. So they'll take the meeting, they'll give you 20 minutes, and then they go, so are you going to raise? They say, well, we're not sure. We get a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations with people. That's good for you because it shows them that you know how to get in front of investors, right? No investor wants to be the only person in the deal. Every time I've lost money in the very early days of me angel investing, there was only one investor, this guy, okay, right? Because they weren't capable of convincing anybody else that it was a good idea, but somehow I drank my own Kool-Aid and I threw the money in, and then, it's not a big surprise that like things didn't work out.
Yeah.
Ever since then, I've never been the only investor.
Yeah.
Right? And only because I think it's more fun. I think it's more fun for you. I think it's better for me. I think it's better for the group to say, we have all these people that are interested in the outcome.
Yeah.
That's just on the pre-marketing. So you spend 6 weeks, all your time. The other thing is when you're raising everything else on your plate, what else do you do in a day?
Family. That's the most important thing to me.
At work, what do you do?
At work, sometimes I do developing too, because for my first company, IQ Media. Otherwise, it's really managing this company. So.
Okay, well, all the other stuff you pretty much put on hold to focus on fundraising.
I get that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think founders realize it. A lot of them write code, a lot of them manage product, a lot of them are running the marketing. It's like you need to plan to not be present because you're spending all your time networking to connect with investors, to reach out. I mean, so one of the best ways to reach out to an investor is to email, and this is what I kind of teach entrepreneurs to do, is create a column of entrepreneurs that have recently raised from that investor, and cold email them asking for advice on fundraising. Okay? So who do you know that's raised money in this city? Okay.
I know a little bit about Boudreau, Yves Boudreau.
Yeah, so Kimple.
Perfect. Yeah, Kimple.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, alongside.
Alongside, yeah.
Yes, and I should know I'm an investor. So you look at alongside, you look at their investors, you say, well, I would like this investor to also invest in my company. You put Yves' name on it. If that's the most recent investment, I usually put the most recent investment, the entrepreneur, right? What do you think Yves' email is?
I don't know.
It's Yves@alongside.com. Every entrepreneur, it's their first name at 90% of the time, right? So you email the entrepreneur and you say, hey, here's who I am. And I always call it like 1 or 2 lines of awesomeness and then 3 bullets. So just like, and like brag a little bit. Here's what we are, here's what we've done. These are the 3 lines, like 3 bullets. We're unsure if we should raise money. We've self-funded so far. I noticed that you raised. I'd love your advice. Most founders that have recently raised money that have raised money, they know that they did it because other people gave them advice, so they'll reciprocate. Okay. It's kind of like the good karma thing, right? Like if I just closed my round 6 months ago, and I knew prior to that for 6 months I had people helping me, and I get an entrepreneur, especially from the same city as mine, that actually is doing something and they want advice, the hit rate is almost 100%. On the call, if you do your job and you ask good questions and you listen, this won't work if you talk the whole time, just so you know.
Okay.
It only works if you ask good questions and they answer them and they feel committed, ask for advice, get the answer. At the end, they'll say something like, hey, this sounds really interesting, let me know if I can ever be helpful. Okay? If you get that, then you write them in the spreadsheet that you have tracking all this stuff. Okay, when I'm ready for the introduction to the investor, I'm going to get it. What you want to do is you want to get all those conversations with entrepreneurs done so that when you're ready to start meeting with all the investors, you want to do it very compressed. You don't want to meet an investor now and then meet another investor in a month.
Okay.
You essentially want to do all your entrepreneurial meetings, get them all excited about your business, have the opportunity to circle back for them to say hey, how can I be helpful? Then you circle back and say, hey, Yves, I noticed that Jerry was one of your investors. He's somebody that's on my list of people because of these reasons. Would you mind making an introduction? And this is the key. Here's the copy to use to make the introduction. Yeah, you write the email for him. If you expect him, imagine I'm like, hey, Guy, do you mind making introductions for me? You start it and you're like, you got to do it. You don't know what to say. You don't know what you should say. I had one of my clients recently she wanted an introduction to a really important company in Canada, and she knows my style, so she sent me the email. Copy, change some things, tweak it, personalize it, hit send. Done. Response within an hour. But if you would have made me sit there and be like, oh man, I got to do the intro, and what should I say, what should I not say? I don't know what's amazing about their company today. You know what I mean? Like if I made an intro for you, if you don't tell me those awesome lines of greatness, I don't know. And they could be amazing.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like give him the email, And trust me, he'll copy, paste, tweak it, whatever, make it his own. I remember one time we were raising for my company, Flowtown, and there was this really notable guy named Peter. He wasn't even an investor, but he was a real big fan of what we were doing. And everybody knew who he was because he had been like CEO of 2 other really important companies. So he was never the founder, but came in as CEO. And one of the things I would do is when people agreed to make the intro, I would say, hey, thanks again for the call. You mentioned if I ever need help, I'm actually looking to connect with this investor. By the way, here's the language that Peter used. Feel free to copy and paste and edit as needed. So it was like another level of proof to say, this other guy that you know of made introductions for me. Here's the language he used. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like there's really cool ways of just kind of like building process around it to make sure that you get what you need. But it's like everything else. Like you have a funnel, you have people that do stuff. Some people won't do the intros, but that's why I do 2 entrepreneurs per investor. So I always get an introduction. Okay. I just need one of them to do it. Okay. There's this great saying that investors don't want to meet you, they want to be introduced to you. Right?
That's true.
It's so true. They don't want to meet you. They want to be introduced to you. They want to. If you can't get somebody else that they know and that is vouch for you to do the intro, then it says something about the entrepreneur, right? That resourcefulness. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's the beginning. I mean, it would take me a day to unpack the rest of it. Yeah. But if you just did that, if you did the work of like identifying the investors, figuring out who they recently invested in, emailing those entrepreneurs to get advice on the fundraising process, the rest of it would kind of figure itself out because they would tell you, right? Build a real pitch deck. And there's enough information on the internet to like really, and I've got video, if you search Dan Martell pitch deck, I have videos on it. That'll get you there. Because the cool part is a lot of people don't do this. They don't know. Yeah. So you'll stand out just by doing it. Yeah. Does that help?
Very helpful. The second thing may be, because I start to understand how you're helping me by speaking, is how do you restructure your company? Because right now we are in a process of transition of growth, I would say. Yep. I start to feel a little bit lost the way I'm going to restructure everything from 2018. Because 2018, this company will be totally changed. Yeah. Because I kind of know what's going to happen in terms of new clients and new reality. So this is where I feel a little bit lost. How do you restructure a company? Your marketing team, you should be the CFO.
I really need to get some pieces of paper to show you stuff. I mean, here's the way to think about it, and this is true for any business, right? Yeah. When you plan the year at the beginning of the year, usually I plan in December for like 2018. So my team flies in December and we plan 2018. There's kind of two.
I'm gonna have to take notes.
Yeah, you can take notes. There's kind of 2 parts to it. There's the where you're at today and where it's gonna look like at the end of the year, right? So it doesn't matter. Like I understand that this feels like a big change, and it is, but this process should be a yearly thing anyway. Like high performing companies, okay, and unfortunately this city doesn't have a whole lot. That's just straight up fucking honest. And if I went in and audited their business, it would be embarrassing. Some of them are lucky that they have great margins and great business and they have a history, so they keep taking orders. But if the market actually shifted and they had to compete, they'd be in a lot of trouble because they don't have this kind of process. The process is, here's where I'm at, here's where I need to be. This is what it looks like, this is what it's gonna look like. And then work backwards on a quarterly basis. What are the key changes on a like systematic process for changing things? It's really tough to come into a business and say, today we look like X and tomorrow we look like Y, right? It's gonna cause a lot of confusion and it's harder to do it overnight. People move offices overnight because they hire like a moving company. And it's like, okay, on Friday you went to this work and on Monday we all go to this new building. That is a little different. But to say like roles are gonna change, the things that are your priorities are gonna change, I'd much rather say at the end of the year we're gonna be done the transition. Here's the big pieces that need to transition, right? And break it down into, it could be departmental. So you could start with departmental. So you could say like engineering, you could say marketing, you could say sales, you could say operation and finance. And then those are the themes per quarter, right? And what you do is you kind of set the org chart. So this is, for me, is really important, is here's the functional org chart, okay? And if you have two businesses, in your case, this is what I would do, is I would have the current business, the new business, the current business, the new business. So essentially what would happen in those two org charts is you'd have names on both right now, right? And at the end of the year, there might be names on both, but most of them will shift over. Okay, so it's kind of like a visual of like, here's the org structure, here are the different people in those positions, but there's this other one that at the end of the year is gonna look like this, but we need to figure out who are the people from this side that are gonna end up over here. Right? But you can do that on a quarterly basis, right? So you could say Q1, first quarter, is, let's call it marketing, right? So in marketing, before and after. What does the org structure look like now? What does it look like after? And design that so that there's a plan and the person who leads marketing can understand it. And look, it may not even take a quarter. It could take 2 weeks, right? But you probably have things like, hey, we need to shift resources, but we can't also have this other thing just die. Is that the concern, is that you have this other business and you're shifting to a new business? Like, is one of your concerns that this old business is going to maybe like...
Not the first business, I'm talking about Educode, because the way I started it, we have somehow a functional structure.
Yeah.
But where I want to go, I know I can't keep going like that.
Yeah.
So I need to restructure that new business, not the whole.
Okay, so you don't have to transition. You're just saying the current business doesn't work. You need to fix it. Perfect.
I didn't want to use that word, but if you want, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If it was working, you wouldn't fix it. I mean, that's, and this is, it's funny, because like, just as a side, in my weekly meetings with my team, I have a category called issues, but they're not issues, but they are issues, in the sense that I need them to get used with the word issue.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I specifically call them issues, even though they're opportunities, they're announcements, they're standard things we're doing, but they go under the issues list because I need our team to feel okay talking about things as issues.
Okay.
Right? So you may not want to call it to fix it, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So same process. Here's where you're at. Here's where you need to be. I think one of the challenges, are you clear on what it needs to look like?
Yeah, it's clear on my head, in my mind, the way I want it to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But can you draw that out?
I guess so.
Yeah. So draw it out at the end of 2018. What's it going to look like? I'm not saying do it now. I'm just saying you got to draw it out, org structure, right? And look at where you're at today. That's the delta. That's the difference, right? And you need to communicate that change. You know, the role of a CEO is really make sure you don't run out of money, hire great people, and sell in television. Oversell and like communicate often. If you know that there's a difference in the way the team's going to structure their work at the end of 2018, you need to start communicating that today. And then like figure out the plan of saying, okay, these are the departments that are going to get shifted first, right? And you put that on a map. I mean, at the lowest level, I just use a piece of printer paper. And I just like draw December 2017, December 2018, draw a grid, break it up into 4, and that's my quarters, and then say, okay, what are the big rocks, big pieces that I need to figure out to make this transition? Well, first is I need to be clear on what it looks like. Most people make change when they don't know what it's supposed to look like. So be clear on what the outcome is, then break it apart into the different quarters of what needs to get done in each one, and then it's about executing. But here's the thing is when I do this with companies, one of the challenges you got to ask yourself is, do you have the right people on the bus? So before even communicating that with the team, actually ask yourself as you design it, do I have the right people on the bus? And if not, what seat should they be? Like, it's not that they need to get off the bus. They're just in the wrong seat.
Yep.
And you know to really compete. Like when you start selling a $100 million a year vision in 7 years, you can't have people that you're coaching all the time to perform.
For sure.
You need to have somebody come in. Like that's why the investors are giving you money. They're not giving you money to do what you've been doing. They're giving you money to change the way you've been doing things to get a higher growth curve.
Yep.
Right? Like your curves like this, you're going to have 3x growth because take that money, redeploy the capital into key hires and or infrastructure. Right? So when you look at that org chart at the end of 2018, with that capital, you got to build a people plan. right? So that people plan is who needs to get hired in what quarter and how's that going to affect top line revenue or bottom line revenue or production or development, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, that's one of the like there's always the people side of the business. Every business is a people business. I don't care if it's software. Yeah. So design the people structure, work backwards, and then figure out who needs to get hired when. What are the estimated salary range? Payscale.com is a great site for giving you a sense of what should I pay people.
Yeah.
And if there's a gap in hiring in regards to your infrastructure and your ability to pay for it, that's where you go to investors and say, here's how I'm going to deploy your capital. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that's what they want to know. They want all of them at the end is something called use of funds. What are you going to do with my money? Right? So if you show them a compelling vision of year one, and really you want to use them 1, 3 and kind of like a bigger timeline, they're going to know that you've been thoughtful about it.
Yeah.
That's what investors want. They want to know that the person's thinking, right? Because it's just, if they've been doing it for a while like I have, you get burned, right? You get burned when people are just like overly excited about this small little piece of traction they have today and they think it's going to explode into the next big thing. Most don't, and they actually go through the valley, and the valley is really shitty, and right? It's horrible, but that's where the magic happens. If they're willing to grind through that valley and come up on the other side. Mm-hmm. And if they're not, they don't win, and that's just the way it is. Like, we're not supposed to. That's the sad part, is nobody's supposed to succeed and win in business.
Yeah.
Right? But I think everybody thinks they are, and it's fun to think that, and it's great, but then it's like, okay, for me to win, let's build a plan that's going to increase the probability of success.
Yeah.
Right? Does that help?
A lot.
Awesome, Guy. I got to bounce, man.
Thank you so much.
Super fun. Really glad to chat, and I appreciate you doing this.
Will you visit my dev team over there? Yep. Because they knew you were coming. Real quick, Carrie is over there.
Oh, hey, Carrie. Well, I'm going to say hi, Carrie. You're just going to run away. I told him about the press release. He didn't even know about it. I was like, congrats. He's like, on what? That was fun.
I didn't know much about raising money. So it's kind of 101 about raising money. So, but I will need more. I know he's pretty busy, but I'll need to do my job on that. The second thing is about how do you restructure your company, how do you do all the planning process, if you're in a transition phase, all of that. So really, that was so helpful. He has a lot of experiences in building companies and so and so. I thought if I can have him for 30 minutes, I would have a lot. And actually, yes, I did.
Okay, dude, you guys have a lot to work on. Keep me posted, okay?
Thank you so much.
100%. We'll talk soon.